Hi, my name's Robert Graham, and this is my research presentation I've entitled Humanity and Survival in Marlon Haushofer's The Wall. So the work that I found for my research project decided to use is called Melancholy and Lost Desire in the Work of Marlon Haushofer by Lorraine Marcotte, University of Calgary. And this work talks a lot about Haushofer's works in general, not just The Wall, but I tried to concentrate on The Wall. So this is really interesting psychological piece, as psychology features a lot in Haushofer's works. And Marcotte describes, to start with, the kind of Freudian definition of melancholy, which that word actually features a lot in The Wall as well as Haushofer's works in general. But it's a general sadness or despair about a certain object. So something is lost here, but when we talk about mourning, it's something that the person is able to gradually accept over time and kind of come to understand what they're mourning about, and that is the object they're mourning about specifically. But melancholy kind of has an unconscious dimension, and it's less clear what exactly the person's melancholy about. I guess I kind of think of depression when I think of it, but in the protagonist's case in The Wall, the subject doesn't exactly understand maybe specifically what she's lost and why it's so devastating to her. It's clear she's lost something. In this case, she's literally lost the world, but she doesn't exactly put her finger on specifically maybe what she's melancholy about. Her musings indicate a general sadness or melancholy about her situation, but kind of also a tacit acceptance and peace about it being better than it was before with their husband and children and with other people in general. So I think this kind of ties in with a sense of nostalgia for a simpler life. And also I notice a lot of definitely a misanthropic attitude for other humans throughout the book, and by extension herself as a human. So she's lost her husband and 2 daughters, but that doesn't seem to be exactly what her lamentations are specifically about. It's much more existential and deep in this case, and kind of unclear, kind of a non-specific grief and melancholy about the human condition in general. But I thought this is a good point Marcotte made on page 72 of her work. She sums up the predicament that the protagonist finds herself in. She must fend for herself and therefore becomes increasingly self-reliant, so she survives because she is resourceful, practical, and clever. And I think the novel really concentrates on her very survival, as it kind of strips a lot away as far as the accoutrements that a normal human might encounter in our modern society. So it's very much about self-reliance and survival. And Marcotte also describes her situation as neither traditionally masculine or feminine, which I thought was a really good statement that I agree with. The protagonist has a lot of deep thoughts about the general human condition and her condition in surviving her situation. She's forced to survive without other people, which I think she finds liberating in a kind of way. And she comes face to face with a raw human condition without the accoutrements of the rat race of society or other people. And over she seems pretty misanthropic in her attitude against other people, and finds herself as responsible for her own fate. And people are not dependable, will fail you. This is a theme that recurs over and over. There's many quotes throughout the book, and I'll let you just read these bullets I have here. I won't read them verbatim off the slide, but I do have a couple other ones I will read that aren't here. On page 109, she says, "But I am a human being, and I can only think and act like a human being. Only death will free me from that." And another one on page 184, human beings had played their own games, and in almost every case they had ended badly. And how could I complain? I was one of them, and couldn't judge them, because I understood them so well. It was better not to think about human beings. So again, over and over, just the word human and the human condition in general being talked about, not necessarily all as you might expect in a just a gender rivalry kind of way. So just some things to think about. So given Marcotic's characterization of the protagonist's predicament and psychology as being neither necessarily masculine or feminine, it kind of got me in the mind of looking at the wall through the lens of gender and feminism. I had read several reviews of the wall before, because I knew we were going to be reading it in this class, and a lot of them definitely made the work seem feminist in nature, and the protagonist, well, just the general situation is kind of a feminist utopia, I guess. And so I definitely had a notion of what I expected when I read the book, but I was a little bit, and in fact, even the copy of the wall I have has a lot of suggested further reading in it in the back about feminism and sexual politics. So I definitely had this notion of what I thought it would be about before I even started, but I was a little surprised when I read it that it wasn't exactly what I expected in this vein. I'm not trying to be contrarian just for the sake of it, but I was genuinely kind of surprised. I don't think it's as cut and dry as maybe some reviews of the book make it seem. So on male and female relationships, the protagonist venerates Hugo, like I say here many times throughout this novel, and credits him with their very survival as far as the tools and his attitude. And it's literally because of him, it seems, that she's able to survive on the cabin and supplies that he has without these things, which I owe to Hugo's anxieties and the chance I would no longer be alive. So literally, she's still alive because of this man's actions. And as far as the hunting, the protagonist hunts just like most men would have. Of course, she's trying to survive. She doesn't enjoy it, definitely not. But she doesn't mind the fishing as much. Early in the book, Louise is mentioned as being a passionate hunter by the protagonist. So, and obviously, like I said, she probably needs to hunt in order to survive. Even though I guess she could be, kind of vegetarian. But I'm saying it's not as cut and dry. It seems that the male-female dynamic is, she's doing things that men would have, and men are doing things that women might have. So it's definitely, I keep coming back to human. It's a human condition, not male or female. It's a human predicament. And the man horribly murders her animals, Lynx and Bella, and she runs off to get her rifle and then comes back and kills the guy. So this is kind of a morally questionable action, I think, and paints the protagonist in kind of the same light as the man. So it's just a question, are her actions morally in this case any better than his were? Did she really need to come and back and kill that guy for him killing her animals? And her best friend links the dog as male. That may not be terribly significant, but the dog could have easily been made a female, and there's So just some concluding thoughts here. I think maybe viewing the wall as kind of a feminist manifesto about these violent, brutish men. Maybe this is a tad oversimplistic. I think the wall's a deep, sophisticated book about the human condition in general, where everything else is stripped away. I can definitely see how people can come to the more feminist interpretation, but again, I kind of just looked at things a different way here, more of a human condition. So I think it's really more about day-to-day activities of a survivor interspersed with deep thoughts about kind of the futility of life and the human condition. I think there's misanthropy toward humans, cynicism, or even nihilism in the vein of some of the famous existentialist philosophers. And Marcotic's essay, she called her thought process a mourning of lost desire for anything but mere survival by the protagonist. So it's a story about the human predicament. I think less about. I think the novel is actually pretty ambivalent towards gender, but the desire to have a simple, self-reliant life away from people. You could even call it anti-human, perhaps. Anyway, here are my citations, and hope you've enjoyed the presentation, and hope it made you think. And I look forward to everybody's comments. Thank you.